Hey, I'm Wendy. This is my series, Love, Loss, and Lipstick, part 8 already. If you've been following along, or if you haven't, just telling my story while I get ready for work. And when I am done putting on my makeup, I'll be done for today. Today is a lot. I was trying to mentally prepare for this. So no judgment. Last week I ended with Steve and I going to Hawaii. It was our 1-year anniversary of dating. I had gone to Hawaii by myself. He had gone to Hawaii with some friends. And now we decided that we would go together. So just to back up a little bit, I love the beach. That is my happy place. I am happy sitting on a beach, especially in Hawaii. That is not fun for Steve. He hated sitting, period. And so we were on day 3 in Hawaii and we had not gone to the beach yet. I felt like I had done everything that he wanted to do. I compromised. And now it was my turn. And I wanted to go to the beach and he said, okay. Instead of going to the beach outside of the hotel, which most people probably would do, he decided that it was too crowded and he wanted to find a more secluded beach somewhere. Okay, so we had rented a Jeep. We get in the car or in the Jeep and we start driving. I have no idea where we're going. And as we're driving, he said, oh, you know what? This looks kind of familiar. And I'm thinking, it looks familiar. You've been here one time a year ago. But okay, it looks familiar. I mean, a lot of places in Hawaii look familiar. But he said, you know, I think we were over here when I came last year. And I believe there's a waterfall that you can hike back to. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go to the beach. And he said, let's just pull over. I'm like, okay. So we pull over. And he said, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty sure this is it. Let's just, hike back here. I think there's a waterfall. So now we're hiking. And the crazy thing is he was right. I'm like, oh my gosh. How did you remember? We didn't have GPS. Sure enough, we come to a waterfall. So I'm like, wow, it's really beautiful. Okay, let's go to the beach. He said, hold on. He goes, here, sit down. And I thought, okay, now we're staying. So I sit down on this, he has me sit on this rock. And before I even knew, what was going on, he kneeled down on a rock in front of me. And I was like, oh my gosh. Sure enough, he pulls out a ring box. This is really hard for me. I don't want to cry while I'm trying to put on my makeup. So he asked me if I would marry him. And immediately, all these thoughts were going through my head. If you know me, and of course a lot of you don't really know me, but I don't speak impulsively. I think and I process before I say anything. And so I was thinking oh my gosh, is this last year a preview of what my life would look like if I say yes to marry him? Because it was rough. And I thought, if I say I don't know, which is how I felt. If I said no, or if I said I don't know, then I knew, we would be on the next plane home. And I didn't want to ruin our vacation. And that would be terrible. And so my mind is spinning. And he's waiting. And I know that it probably felt like an eternity to him. But I thought, I have to say yes right now. But instead of saying yes, I looked at what he was presenting me with. And in like the very first week that I started doing this, I talked about there was a ring that Steve had that was being passed around. He bought my cousin's car. He gave him this ring to hold on to as collateral. And everybody was like, oh, Wendy, maybe that ring will be yours one day. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I knew that there was a ring. And this was not the ring that he had in the box that he was proposing with. This was like a random ring from, you know, the jeweler. And the first thing I said was, oh, did you go buy this ring and pay retail? And he looked at me. I'm like, yeah, okay, I just said that because I knew he had a ring. And I thought, did you just spend a bunch of money on a random ring? Because, you know, I was from like closer to the LA area. We used to go to the jewelry mart to buy jewelry. We never bought jewelry in a jewelry store and paid retail. He's like, really? So he asked me again. And I said yes. Kind of because I felt like I needed to in the situation we were in. So, you know, all happy. Yay, we're going to get married. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we leave there to go to the beach. Sure enough, he finds us a beach that was like we were the only ones there. We get out of the car and he goes to the trunk, or not even the trunk, but the back, hidden kind of. And he pulls out an ice chest with champagne and like a little picnic that I'm like, when did you even do this? I don't even know how he did it or when he did it, but anyways, he did it. And so we celebrated and we sat on the beach and it was lovely and it was great. He wanted to tell everybody. He wanted me to call my mom, which I did. I called my mom, and of course she was thrilled. And she'll tell you to this day that she loved him before I did. And so she was so happy, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So we finished the vacation, and we had a really good time. Everything was great. And we go to the airport to go home, and he, you know, he took a walk to, oh my gosh, you guys, I don't even know what color I just put on this eye. Oh, is that it? Yeah, I guess that's it. Anyways, he comes back, you know, waiting to board the plane, and he went to like one of the little convenience stores in the airport to buy me some bride magazines so I could start looking at wedding dresses on the plane on the way home. And so we get on the plane and we're coming home, and he's talking about, you know, the wedding, and we're looking at wedding dresses, and I started crying. And he's like, why are you crying? And I said, oh, I always cry on the way home from a vacation because, you know, I just love being on vacation, and it makes me sad that I have to go home, when really, you know, I was having a panic attack. So we got home, and he went back to the San Diego area where he was living and working, went back to the job that he hated. And we talked on the phone a few times. It was like the next week, and it just was off. It was just off. I was off. He was never happy when he just didn't like his job. He didn't like his job, and so when we would talk, he would be in a bad mood. And he knew something was wrong, and I wasn't saying anything. I never really said anything. I didn't know how to communicate my feelings. And I felt like if I did, he would get upset, or I would hurt his feelings, or I would, you know, it would start a fight. I was the peacekeeper. So I would do, you know, whatever I had to do to keep the peace. But I thought, okay, I don't want to do this really on the phone, but we didn't get to see each other that often. And I thought, I have got to put on my big girl pants. I have to tell him what's up, because this is bad. So, of course, I started crying. Whenever I would start crying, you know, that too, he would get mad when I would cry. And that was an issue. That was a problem. So I told him I just wasn't feeling like I should be about getting married. There were some things I had to talk about, and I had to get off my chest to be able to have a clear conscience and be able to do this. So he's like, okay, you know, tell me what's going on. And some of it was, you know, I knew his job was a non-negotiable because he loved his job. And I mean, his job was his job. But I felt like his job always came first, which to some extent, I mean, it's a thing. But I feel like maybe because he left home when he was like 14, he wasn't used to checking in or being accountable for where he was or what he was doing, or, you know, and I just felt like, I mean, I still lived at home with my mom, and it was just a common courtesy to let her know if I was going to be late, or if I wasn't coming home, or if, you know, whatever, because I knew she would worry. And I just expected that from him. And of course, he didn't realize that I expected that without me telling him, but I wasn't, you know, I just didn't really communicate well. But I told him, I said, you know, being stood up was unacceptable. And because you're working, that's not a good enough excuse. We didn't text. It wasn't like, you know, it is today. It wasn't that easy. But you could make the effort. You could call me. I'm not going to make it, or, you know, whatever the case. But, so, you know, I had an issue with that. He had a temper. He never, I mean, I was never afraid. He had a temper, though. And so when he would get mad, sometimes I felt like he would get mad at things that weren't worth getting that mad over. And so it really made me afraid to tell him how I was feeling, because I was always afraid that he would get mad. And so I couldn't really be honest all the time. And that was a problem. So I got everything off my chest. And of course he got mad. And I can't remember exactly, but I think he might have hung up on me. And that was not okay. And then I didn't hear from him for probably about 4 days. I didn't know if we were still together. I didn't know if we were going to get married. I didn't know if he was okay. I didn't know. I just didn't know. And I thought, okay, I guess at some point we'll see where we're going from here. And I felt like I was a good girlfriend, as far as I would send him flowers and send him care packages and plan special occasions and plan, you know, dates, and because we didn't live, you know, where we could see each other all the time. So I tried to make the time that we were together special. But I feel like emotionally, I really wasn't a very good girlfriend. I was not on the same page. And it was my own fault. You know, I just felt like the times that we were going to be able to spend together, I didn't want to spend together fighting. So I would take the blame, or, oh, it's my fault, or, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'll do better. Even though I didn't do anything. But I just, whoops. I don't know if you can see, I just hit my cheek with my mascara. I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. You have to let it dry. But anyways, through that whole year, there were times when I'm like, I can't believe he still wants to be with me. Like, why would he still want to be with me? But he did, you know, and then he even asked me to marry him. And then I didn't even say yes right away. But so I didn't know, 4 days at least. And then he showed up at my house unannounced, which he had never done that before. Because it was such a long drive. What if I wasn't home? Although if I wasn't home, he would hang out with my mom. I'm sure that would have been fine too. But anyway, so he showed up at my house, and I thought that he was coming over to break up with me in person and to call off the engagement. So I was kind of trying to prepare for that. And I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if maybe I wanted that. I didn't know after not talking to him. But anyways, he said, you know, I thought about everything you said. And anyways, once your mascara dries, you can brush it off without messing up all your makeup. He said, I thought about everything that you said, and you know what, you're right. And he said, I understand where you're coming from, and I know I've just been really unhappy with this job and taking it out on you, and that's not right. And he addressed everything that I had said that I had an issue with. And he said, I'm okay with it all. And I mean, they say people don't change, but he said he would. And then I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now what? He's doing, you know, saying that he'll do everything that I asked. I'm still like, oh. So I just really, you know, like I said, I think before I speak. And I was like, so now I'm gonna cry now that I have my makeup done. I'm like, okay, so thinking about the future, you know, I have this man here who's a hard worker, and he's a good man, and he adores me, and he loves me unconditionally, even though I don't deserve it sometimes. And I'm like, is that really, you know, is that really how I want to spend the rest of my life and who I want to be with? Yes, of course. And so we both had an attitude adjustment, and it was so good. So I'm going to try and like pull myself together. And I put these on YouTube after I'm done because Facebook will delete them. So I'm ready now. So that's the end of today. And so, yeah, I'm going to pull it together and go to work. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.